Welcome to the RC Aerobatics podcast. I'm your host, Rich Whitlow. This episode, we will speak with the F3A USA Worlds Competition team. This team includes Andrew Jesky, Pete Collinson, and Jason Shulman. Jason had some technical issues and mostly communicated through the chat. Also, at-large member Joseph Szczur was unable to attend due to work scheduling. We talk about the team, the planning, how they prepare, equipment, and lots more. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I did get a message from Joseph, and he's going to be a little late, but he will get on when he can. So that'll be good. I can't see. There's the comments. All right, good deal. So I can't see how many people are on or not, but we will have a recording, so we'll put it up afterwards for sure. And then if we get to some questions and stuff, I'll bring them up. So first, thanks everybody for coming. I'm excited to have you guys here. I'm excited about the World's coming up this year. It's a great thing. And why don't we start, just in case there's people out there who don't know who you guys are. Why don't you go around and start with you, Andrew, and just kind of introduce yourself, tell yourself a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
All right. So, like I said, my name's Andrew Jesky. Been flying pattern for a little bit. I started 1997, I think. Got in with my parents. Bob King had a lot of really, really good help when I was younger, and then worked my way up through FAI. And was very fortunate to have Jay kind of take me under his wing when I was trying to make the team. And he'd come up and practice at the weak signals with me and kind of get me polished and prepared. And it's been really, really good. I've known Jay, I've known Pete for a very, very long time. So I think this year's going to be a really, really good team, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, awesome, very good. How about you, Pete?
Sorry. Got me muted there. Sorry. So I started 94. Santa put a trainer plane under the Christmas tree, and that's kind of what started it all.
He'd come up and practice at the weak signals with me.
So I started.
There we go.
There we go. So then I had a trainer plane for Christmas back in 94. My dad and I took about 6 months to build a ARF, as we were pretty much clueless on how to put it together. Went out to the local field. The instructor got it all set up, and started flying ever since then. 97 was the first time I got into pattern. Buff Miller was a big help when I first started. He was a pattern guy in South Carolina who I met one Christmas, and told me to come to a local pattern contest. I was going to spectate, but I brought my plane. It was a little Super Sportster, and entered it in what was novice back then, now sportsman, and placed second with pretty much no experience. Didn't know what I was doing, and I was hooked from that point. And then later realized I needed a pattern plane to really pursue the passion of it. So 98 was my first Nats, and I've been to the Nats every year since, except for 1 year. 2021, I think, was the first one I missed. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good. Yeah, you have been doing a little while too. And then someone who might have been flying a little while, I'm pretty sure I saw him when he was about 12 flying airplanes. Jason, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself? We may be losing Jason there.
It's looking like the connection's not great for him there.
No. So while we're waiting a minute, if anybody is on and you want to ask questions, put them in the comments. I think I can see the comments now, so we'll put them on there. I've got a list of questions I will ask, but there may be some things that other guys want to ask as well. So I still see Jason kind of frozen there. So why don't I did see you guys do the interview at the judging instruction. I think that that was a great video. I saw it after the fact, and it was a great opportunity to get you guys out there and see it. Everybody to see you guys, which is terrific. When it comes to judging and such, what are you guys' opinions as you go different places in the world? Is the judging different where you go in different places?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it is. It's influenced kind of around what everybody's flying. I think here in the U.S. we have a bit faster pace. Things are a little bit quicker, fly a little further out, and then you get into the European style, which brings it in a little closer, slows it down with the contra. So I mean, I think wherever you go, you definitely have that difference. And it's the ability to kind of adjust or fly your flight. I know for me, like I try and not change too much with what I'm doing and the way that I'm practicing. I'll kind of go into the season with a version of how I want to fly, but I'm not going to change it at the contest because for me, that's too much of a change too quickly. So it's kind of just having that mindset going into the year of how you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You feel the same way?
Yeah, I would second that. The European style, I would say, tends to be a little bit slower. The advantage of that, you can bring it in maybe a little bit closer. But yeah, I would say the U.S. style tends to be a little bit faster paced, a little further out. My idea is maybe trying to find a balance between the two. And sometimes the conditions allow for different styles too. When it's calm, you can fly slower, typically, and maybe bring it in a little closer, better presentation. With the wind blowing, more turbulence, you're going to maybe fly faster, and it just makes more sense to fly a bigger. So I think it's definitely a balance. And then when you get into the unknowns, you have to be mindful of the time. So, even if you're flying bigger, you would have to fly faster to stay on pace. But if you're flying smaller, you might be flying slower. So it's kind of trying to find that perfect balance for also the conditions too. And I think over time, you just kind of find what works best for you. And what Andrew said, I think is really important. When you get to a contest, there's very, very little that you want to actually change. It really becomes more of a mental preparation at that point, just being kind of well rested and ready to go, and really not trying to change any of your fundamentals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Looks like you're back on, Jason. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't know what's going on. Either my internet is not up to the task of both video and audio, or I just can't find a strong enough signal here. So
that's all right. We'll have that picture of your beard in our mind. Gotcha. Yeah, well, why don't you try to give us a little intro of yourself, and we'll see if it works.
Am I still here?
Okay. Well, then we will move on to the next. So let me ask you guys this: on as you're preparing, where you're going, a little small town in Australia. The weather conditions, do you know what kind of weather conditions you're expecting?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all kind of look at it, especially Pete, being from the aviation side, is going to for sure look at kind of where things are. Myself, with a little bit of UAV aviation background, we're we're pulling up old data, looking to see which way the winds are. One of the funniest things I've seen is it can blow from any direction from no speed to 25 miles an hour, but it looks like it's going to be either hot or cold. So it's going to be just kind of a crapshoot. You're just going to throw it up. It's a lot like Argentina was. It can be super cold, super windy, or it could be, the next day after we left Argentina, it was 80 degrees and no wind. So that's at least from the data that I've gathered so far.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I think it's like the least likely to be rainy. It's more of a dry season, at least from what I saw, which hopefully will be good. And I think the wind prevails out of the west with the field facing south. It might favor a left to right. But like any event, one of those days is going to completely switch. So you don't want to bank on being too comfortable one direction. It's nice to have it in mind, but also like in the mornings, it might be chilly. For me, I like to keep my thumbs as warm as possible. So that could be a little factor. Maybe in the morning might be a little chilly. Afternoons, I think it could be in the 60s, maybe 70s on a warm day. So we'll just kind of have to prepare for all conditions. So it's another benefit of flying, I guess, in the wintertime right now is getting used to the cooler conditions, as I think it'll be like springtime there, winter going into spring. So it could have a cool day or it could have a mild day. So we'll just kind of be prepared for, maybe some bipolar weather conditions there. So, which is nice.
Well,
everyone else has to deal with it, so we're kind of all on a level playing field in that regard.
Right. Well, we'll hope it's not totally like Argentina. Yeah. And now, Jason, if you get into something, conditions kind of like Argentina, does that kind of throw your game plan out the window, or do you try to stick to what you practice still and all that? I thought I'd give it a try just in case.
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys think? If they're that extreme, you still try to stick to the way you were flying and that, or at that point do you have to just survive the flight and do what you can?
I think that's exactly it. At that point with those conditions, it's almost just survival flying. You're still trying to make it, look presentable and everything that you can. But, if you go up and like there with the wind blowing the way that it was blowing, and you have a spin in the unknown, like you're going to move, a ton. And at that point, you're trying to work it out for the next 7 maneuvers to get you back to where you need to be. But like what Pete said, it's the same conditions for everybody. So that's kind of that's kind of, how you can culminate it into just getting through it the best that you can. And, don't let it beat you before you even take off. That was kind of my mentality going into it, was like, don't already have a defeated attitude, before the wheels even left the ground. So if you can go in and, just basically say, I'm going to make it the best that I can for the conditions. And, I think we've even dealt with that in Muncie, right? You come into a condition where you just don't know. And I've seen so many people's face, like they get to the field in the morning and it already looks kind of like down, or, because of the winds there, or it's cold or it's hot or whatever. But that's what you got to remember, in the finals or even during the prelims, everybody has the same conditions, at that time. So just make the best that you can with it.
Yeah. So I've seen some strange faces when people say, man, we never fly left or right in Muncie. What am I going to do now?
Yep.
It's always one day too that switches and it's left or right. So it's good to be, mentally prepared too for that, swing and wind conditions.
I think the worst ones for me is like when it's either blowing out or blowing in, and it starts to vary. Like it's 5 degrees one way, 5 degrees the other way. I remember one time, I think it was 2018. Me and Pete were flying on the same line at Site 3, and like one flight I flew one direction, and then it kind of started shifting around, and I was like, screw it, I'm gonna fly the other direction just because. And it was just kind of one of those things. And that's honestly the hardest for me, because you don't really want to change in front of a judge if they've already been seeing left to right and you start to fly right to left, or vice versa. So those are honestly kind of the most challenging times for me to. Do you go with the flow of everybody, or if you see something in the air that looks like, well, maybe it actually is the opposite direction, does it warn enough? Like I think we had a spin at the end of the box in that one, so that isn't going to be as severe as if it's right in front of you. So those are the types of things that you think of for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially maybe in an unknown where the judges maybe aren't as familiar with the routine. You try not to present too much variation or something different. So yeah, I would definitely agree with what Andrew said as far as that. It's if you don't need to fly the different direction, then maybe just stick with what everyone else is doing. But occasionally, the wind will change enough where you probably need to fly a different direction, especially with a spin. But occasionally, you'll have an unknown without a spin. So then that, I think, there's probably very few maneuvers that really dictate having to be upwind or downwind. So, that would be something to consider also. I think Jason's done that a couple of times in the unknowns, fly the pattern downwind to get into the routine quicker, for trying to stay under the 8-minute clock. So that's something that could be done too, even if it's the opposite direction from everyone else. If you're, trying to get all the maneuvers in without going over time, that's obviously the biggest, concern too. So,
Yeah. Do you, with the equipment we have today, do you guys ever find that even though you've got the 8-minute clock and you're flying unknowns, in those type of conditions, is battery ever a big concern, or can you keep it within your battery limits now, or how is that going with you guys?
I find that now the batteries have become consistently more reliable. I fly the same battery for all three, P, F, and unknown, just to keep it consistent as far as CG and weight. So in a preliminary sequence, I've got more battery than I need for all conditions. And then if I could just hop into an F or an unknown and have the same, weight on board, it's not real noticeable, but also I think too, the kind of the punch of the battery with maybe a bigger battery or more milliamps, you just get used to that flying it every time. You could maybe save some weight with the P on a lighter pack, but I personally just prefer to have the same pack and for all three. With the unknown, you're using a lot more of it for sure. But I think now the cells, generally speaking, are very much reliable and consistent, and you can see it with most chargers as far as the internal resistance and whatnot. If one cell is trending bad, so that's something to keep an eye on too, as far as the consistency of the battery and the life of the battery that you're running.
Yeah, very good. It looks like your connection might be a little better, Jason. You hearing us better now? Okay. All right. If you don't mind, give us a quick introduction to yourself and a little bit about yourself. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Now, we talked a little bit about conditions and planning and that kind of stuff. Do you vary your practice based on expected conditions and that kind of stuff? Oh, okay, very good. Well, there we go. Well, we got a bit of conversation from him, so there we go.
The rotation of the Earth must have got. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
I wonder what's
Yeah.
cold for Jason though.
Yeah.
It'll be 60 degrees. He's cold.
I-
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was gonna say I know the radio glove comes out about 60 or less.
yeah, I've been using mine quite a bit this winter. Yeah.
Yeah. And you better have something to cover your transmitter if you're around here. We've been getting so much rain, it's crazy.
Honestly, the biggest thing with the cold temp, sorry to jump in on there, the biggest thing with the cold temp is actually the batteries. Because, you don't think about it. You leave them in your car overnight and they cold soak. That was something I always remembered from Jay's story when he first started flying the electrics at the Worlds. And I first got over there and he's running the vans with the defrosters going when it's cold, just keeping the batteries on there so they can output. And, kind of to what Pete said, the battery technology has gotten better, so it's not near as drastic as it is now, but it's definitely still something you have to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had some. I think it was last year. I had an older battery I flew, and it was a cold morning. And the first minute or two, it was surging in the mid range to full power. And
Yep.
I realized I'll probably need to replace that battery. But I think the colder weather kind of influenced how it was handling the draw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jason mentioned Joe Walker being the manager, and that's I think that's a great addition to your team for sure.
Absolutely.
What kind of preparations are being done now, and what kind of schedule do y'all have to prepare for getting it ready?
So we kind of have a Discord going on for the team, so a little bit of a back channel that everybody can talk about. We're kind of getting arrival dates squared away. We're pretty fortunate to have some good friends over in Australia that I think Jay's going to go over a little bit earlier than we are. I still plan to go over about a week early. I think Pete, you're kind of the same thing, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really difficult because we're going to either you have to fly into Sydney via LAX and then either go Sydney to Brisbane. Or I think, Pete, you're going to fly right into Sydney and then drive from Sydney over, right?
Yeah. And that's
So,
that's a pretty good hike. It's a full day drive. I think at least 10 hours.
10 hours on the wrong side of the road on the wrong side of the car.
So I might give myself a few days to figure out how to get up there.
No, for sure. But I think, we all kind of know that the contest starts the 19th of August, runs through the 26th, and that, and again, everybody's different with their work and how quickly they can get over and how much time they have to take off. But we're trying to make sure we're all there and get a good solid week of practice in together.
Okay, good deal. And so are you guys currently flying the planes that you will be bringing to Australia, or are y'all still getting them ready?
I am. I don't know that.
Uh-huh. And what are you flying?
I'm flying a biplane, a Horus. It's a Yang built Silvestri design. One of the top Italian pilots designed it. Running Contra, the Aberon Contra. I've got two. My primary has the V2 version of the Aberon. The motor's a little bit lower kV, and it's about 50 grams lighter. So I've been practicing most with that. I've got one plane out in Arizona and one here in Atlanta where I live. So between work, when I go out to Phoenix, or if I have a few days off, I'll go out there and practice with my other plane, my other Horse, just to stay as sharp as possible right now. So going into the beginning of the season, so to speak, it won't be as much of a learning curve to get up to my base level of flying. And then ultimately, it's the same with Andrew and Jason as far as trying to peak at the contest. So you're just kind of preparing in a way that you can just kind of slowly get better and better, and then ultimately be at your best at the contest.
Mm-hmm. And you plan on traveling with both airplanes to Australia, or are you just going to bring one?
That's a good question. So my caller, Mark Barnett, he's been helping out with designing a crate. So we're going to do 2 crates, one for each plane, and we're using it's a strong cardboard material, but it's light. So it's going to be about half the weight of a traditional Yang wooden crate. So it'll just make it a little bit easier as far as checking it in for oversized luggage on the plane, and not to mention all the other bags we'll have. So he's been helping me with that out in Arizona. We actually did it. It was basically a template off of one of his Angel Shadow crates, I believe. And it's 115 inches linear is kind of a key number with shipping with the airlines. So that number, anything over that, you've got to claim it as like a musical instrument or something else. And it's kind of a gray area as far as shipping. So there's that whole other aspect, trying to get your plane there safely and allow the airlines to ship it for you. So the box is literally 115 inches linear, which is basically you're taking all 3 dimensions and adding those up. So it's about 78 by 22 by 14 is roughly the dimensions. And so that's been something we've been working on, something strong and but also light for getting the planes out there.
Mm-hmm. And what about the batteries? Do you bring those batteries with you as well, or do you acquire them in Australia?
I went out in 2017, and actually Jason Arnold was nice enough to solder up some batteries, so I actually bought batteries there. This time around, I'm going to probably try and bring as many as I can on board with like carry-on luggage. So that's my current plan. Shipping batteries internationally can be a challenge, especially if you're not a dealer. And I think Australia is one of the countries where it's a little bit more challenging with that. Even domestically, it could be a little bit of a challenge too. And then you can't really check it with the airlines because of the restrictions in the cargo bin. So I'm going to try and bring as many as I can on board. We'll see how that works.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. What about your plane, Andrew?
So I plan to fly the Proteus bike again. I'm flying the one that I flew last year right now. Going to make a few changes. I do believe I will be running Contra at this Worlds. Just kind of going back and forth, looking at weather. I may be like I did in Argentina, bring 1-in-1 just to, alleviate that issue if it does get really windy. But like to what Pete said, right? It's the packaging of the airplanes. It's getting them there safe. It's bringing the batteries. For me, I live in Huntsville. So I need to drive either to Atlanta to get them on a big enough aircraft to fly to LAX to then go to Sydney, because they couldn't they fly little RJs out of here. So it wouldn't fit on there. So I think I'm going to end up flying out of Nashville because there's a direct Nashville to LAX Delta flight. I think it's a 321 that goes out of there. Same thing with the batteries. We've been very fortunate to have Jason as kind of our, mentor when it comes to that. For bringing batteries on, you can, put a radio and say 3 packs in one radio case, have your caller take another radio and 3 packs. And then you end up, with 6 of them over there. So, thankfully we've all kind of been through this. Thunder Power did mention, before they had shipped some batteries over, but being in Australia, like Pete said, they can't get them there for us. We're kind of on our own to bring them ourselves. And thankfully, I would say, one of the benefits of the drone industry growing bigger and kind of getting into the mainstream is people at TSA now understand what a lithium battery is.
Very
Before
true.
when we first used to,
Yep.
when we first used to travel, people were like, "Oh God, what are these?" Because they put them in the scanners and they're just black and really bad looking. But now you're just like, it's a lithium battery, from a model airplane that's going on the airplane with us, and you kind of take, one of the things that Jay showed us is you kind of take like some magazines that kind of show what you do, right? Because if you go in with knowledge, getting onto the airplane or talking to people, as long as you have knowledge and you're not just there kind of stumbling or not really sure what you're doing, they kind of let you through without any issues. One of the biggest things when you check your airplanes, they're going to want you to open it up, and so you have to have that ease of accessibility to get your airplanes open, show them that there's nothing in it. They'll do some swabs, and then they go on the long ride over the pond.
And then to add to that, I've noticed it's becoming more common that they've got X-ray scanners that can often scan the box or the crate without having to swab it. But there are some places that still need to pop the lid, and they typically are swabbing for bomb chemicals is what they are checking. So it seems to be case by case as far as what airport you're maybe flying in and out of.
Yeah.
As far as that.
Yeah, I imagine with the stories I've heard with Jason, I imagine the less they fool with that box and open and close it, the better off you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, very good. Jason, are you live? It doesn't look like you are. All right, very good. I think the next question I have is in budget and fundraising. I can only imagine because it cost me a good bit to go to Muncie for Nats. I can only imagine to go halfway across the world and then to go a week early and do all that stuff. What kind of class of funds do you need to raise for all of y'all to get over there?
I don't know that there's a certain number on each trip. It kind of varies with how many people are going, how long we're going for, what it's going to cost. I would probably say that each person when we go is anywhere between $7,000 and $10,000 by the time you get a rental vehicle, a hotel, your airline ticket. Sometimes we get super fortunate. Like when we went to South Africa, meals and hotels were super inexpensive, but rental cars were expensive. So, it kind of all varies. I think Switzerland was probably our most expensive. But it's just it's one of those things that going into it that it's going to be an expensive trip, and we do everything that we can to fundraise, and we're, super blessed to have a lot of people that support the team. With not having a Worlds in 2021, we had a really good foundation that Mark Atwood had kind of gathered for some folks. I know that there's a lot of contests coming up where people will run a 50-50 and donate that to the team, and then D3's doing some stuff to donate to the team. We're super blessed to have that. The support that backs us, it's really, really nice. Whether it's the whole team, everybody has kind of a little bit of their personal clubs that also help out or pitch in. And I think it's critical for us to go over there and do the best we can. And I think everybody understands that, and they support it wholeheartedly. I've been able to do this since 2007, and just seeing the support, from the smallest clubs to, the biggest companies, they're willing to put forth whatever they can. The industry's changing, and I think everybody understands that. And, you're thankful for anything that they can do. But honestly, the support to me means more than just, the dollar amount, knowing that we're going over there to represent the USA and really put that on our backs. And, from the minute we show up to the minute that we leave, be as professional as possible, because we are the face of America, right? Like you go into a gas station and you have a smile on your face and you thank them and hope they have a great day. And I think that goes really far, just, public relations in general. And I think this team, we're going to have that. We're just going to have a blast. I think, between Pete, Jay, and myself, like we're going to go, we're going to laugh, we're going to fly the best that we can and just enjoy each other's company.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what kind of fundraising is available if somebody wants to get involved in that?
So I think I can jump on that a little bit. I know Joe has kind of worked some of the things that he has. It's a 501c corp for tax donations. So it's all tax, it's all, a write-off, and that all goes to the AMA. So basically any donations will end up going straight through the AMA and then will be dispersed. That way you'll get your certificate of appreciation. You will get, your tax document. I think it's almost anything that you can do. Like I say, a lot of clubs are doing 50-50s at these contests. We appreciate any support that they can give. I know we are backed by sponsors that are willing to help. I know Futaba is going to step up and help out, and we're super fortunate in that regard. But I think I would direct folks to the website, the Facebook page. I know we are going to get shirts, things that we're going to be selling throughout the year. That usually kind of helps us get our plane ticket squared away. So we'll be working towards that. And I know we'll be having announcements coming up real soon.
Oh, good deal. Good deal. So, when you guys decide what kind of spiffy shirt we're going to get together and all wear at the contest, who's the big designer that gets together and gets all that together?
So we actually got really fortunate. So John Derringer, who was initially going to be the team manager, his wife is a graphics design artist. So she came up with the concept for the shirts, and we kind of down selected. Everybody had their vote of which they liked. And it's funny, you start thinking about okay, what do we want? How is that going to look on a shirt? How's it going to look on a hat? Is it going to be able to be embroidered? So I think we came up with a really cool logo. Really excited, kind of incorporates the American flag with a pattern plane. So I think it's going to be a really, really unique design. Before we had Mark Atwood, some of the people at his firm that were graphic designers do the same thing. So, we try and go in style, that's for sure.
Well, good deal. Good deal. I always think you guys look good in the pictures and the blog posts and all that stuff. So that's always exciting to see what you come up with. So when you start traveling, are there any plans for, I guess, social media or videos or stuff to keep people abreast of what's going on?
Yeah. I don't know if you're on. I know he does a very good job of kind of keeping people informed of what's going on. Mark used to be the one as a team manager, and I think we're going to be tasking Joe Walker with doing that. I really enjoyed coming back and hearing people, really say they like those blog entries basically every day. Kind of, you feel bad because they run around, they're really the first ones up in the morning to make sure we know where we're going, where we need to be, and then the last ones at night to, and discern any information that's coming down. But we'll definitely make sure that it's a team effort to kind of put everything on the internet, on Facebook. I know some people don't have Facebook, so we'll try and get the website updated as well. So one of the things that we really try and do with people supporting us, we try and also show the support doing it, making people feel like they're at the contest.
Oh, good deal. Yeah, I know. I spent a lot of evenings. It seemed like they always popped up. Would be late the evening here, and that's been a lot of evenings reading some long posts and going, "Oh, I can't believe this happened today."
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool to know that you guys are over there. We're getting updated at that time, that's for sure. So, so as far as other equipment that you guys have and have to prepare and bring, chargers, radios, any other stuff, what other stuff do you guys have and are getting together for that trip?
I don't know, Andrew, you want to touch on that?
I can. I think fortunately now the technology has turned into Jay just came in with a sad face.
Is that the emoji?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. But I think the technology has grown to where our chargers are very small now, so it doesn't take up so much room. The power supplies have gotten a lot smaller, so you can check all of that stuff right into your luggage. Honestly, the biggest one that we have to contend with is usually a generator. Trying to, you can't really ship a generator over. There had been talks of us just trying to purchase one for the whole team, but now you're talking, at least 3 of us, Joseph being the fourth, so now you're talking a big generator for everybody to have, or you run the vehicles all day long. So I think that is probably the hardest thing, is having a generator to get over there. I mean, you think about, right, if you go to the Nationals, you're going to drive your vehicle up, you got your airplanes, your support equipment. Well, now we're going to take that 6,000 miles across, multiple continents and figuring out how to get there. And I know we try and kind of cross-utilize what we have. I know Jay and myself will kind of talk about, hey, these are the servos that I'm taking. Maybe we don't need to take 8 of them total, because we both, if we can take enough to share, that way it cuts down on some things. As far as chargers, the same way. Everybody doesn't need to have every single thing doubled, because, thankfully the equipment has gotten so much better that as long as you have a spare or 2, you're probably going to be better off in that regard, and not trying to load up everything.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Anything?
I totally agree with that. I mean, worst case, you can always charge off the running car. Maybe not the most elegant way of doing it, but it's an option. And then some of us will have others, like our callers, traveling and checking, a charger and other, non-lithium polymer type items. We can put those in, check bags. As far as the planes and the crates, I'm trying to keep mine as light as possible, so I'm not going to try and put too much in the crate, even though there'll be, spare space in there, with the idea that just keeping it as light as possible would be probably the best idea, as far as the plane itself being intact if they happen to launch it and God forbid drop it or something. I think the less weight in there, the better, as far as shipping. So we'll just have to get creative with some of the check luggage, putting in some chargers. Like Andrew said, they've definitely gotten a lot smaller.
Yeah. So will you guys, I assume, always practice and be at the same site beforehand, or will you have to split up?
I think, we've always tried to practice together, especially before the contest, right? You're going in with that team mentality. It really goes a long way for showing that the team is united together. We're always traveling together, always practicing together. Once the contest starts, it tends to get a little harder, because you'll end up on different flight lines. So you're going to have somebody that's flying in the morning, somebody that's flying in the afternoon. So a lot of times what we just say is, hey, if you can be there for the other person's flight, you're good. But if you need to go out and practice, go right ahead. That's one of the things that, for me, what calms my nerves at a contest is just going out flying. That way I'm not just sitting there in my own head. So I'll go find a practice field, go fly. And then, making sure that I'm there for everybody else's flight. It's a big thing. Jay stressed that when I first made the team, that, we are there as a team. We're there to support each other, but also the people know that you're not going to spend 6 hours waiting for them to fly one flight if it makes sense for you to be able to go run out and get a practice flight. But the run up to the contest, I think we'll all be able to practice at the same place and really, like Pete had mentioned, peak at the right time, right at the contest together. Because in the end, that's what we're there to try and do, is to fly the best that we possibly can. And, everybody has their thing that they kind of are really good at looking, I think, as far as critiquing and judging. So you bring that whole pool together, and you can only just get better with everybody there standing behind you.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got some peanut gallery comments that says, and he'll go practice before I'm even awake.
I believe that.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, Jason is not going to be able to be online this way, but he is watching on the live stream. So there we go. Um, do you know at this point how close those practice fields will even be?
Not not at the moment. That's kind of one of the things that we have to run to ground is to figure out where we're going to practice because at the same time they're going to have published practice sites, but you figure if there's 100 pilots, and there's 5 or 6 practice sites, you kind of have to figure out which one's going to be the most bang for your buck, because you figure even if just the 3 of us want to fly or 4 if Joseph's going to be around, right? That's 12 flights for, 3 pilots or for the 4 pilots for 3 flights. That eats up a lot right there. So we just try and minimize practicing. A funny story in Italy, we somehow stumbled upon the Italians' kind of personal practice site, and they were gracious and let us fly. But I think after the second day, they were like, "All right, guys," because at that point we had 5 of us. There was Cal, Joseph, Jason, myself, and Brett, and it was just like, what are we, what are we doing over here? So, we were kind of joking around with that. They kind of told us that we needed to go find a different practice site.
And we might have to practice too. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. So, we try and lock that down beforehand. Again, I feel like the world has grown, but also shrank as far as like social media. Now, you make so many connections with people out there, like Pete had said, he went over in 2017. So you start to kind of call upon some of those people that I've had some really close friends in Australia and like, hey, we're coming over for a contest. What can we do and where can we go to maybe, find us a little lower key practice facility. But at the same time, you want something that's not going to cause any damage to your airplanes, right? You don't want to be flying out in some field that's really rough and, has full of gopher holes or whatever they have over there that's going to try and kill us. Those types of things. So you kind of have to, you balance all of those and mitigate those risks down the best you can.
Mm-hmm. Well, very good. In kind of an unrelated thing, which, my wife and I have traveled a bit and Europe is not as big a deal. But I'm not really familiar with the the cuisine in Australia. Is there any plans or concerns on diet and having things? Are y'all going to cook for yourself? Or
I could probably speak for Jason on behalf of. They do have McDonald's, so I think he'll be squared away there. I heard there's a KFC in town, so. Yeah, the work, it's a pretty small town, so it might be fairly limited, but I think we'll be able to find some local cuisine there. And one of the practice fields that we are likely going to be flying at, a little bit closer to Brisbane, might have some good food there too. So I think we'll be good in that department.
Oh, good deal.
Funny story about that. 2007, if Jay's on the chat, he can maybe talk a little bit about it. We went to Argentina and we tried like heck to try and find some McDonald's. I watched Jason survive on saltine crackers and water for about a week before the contest started. So the first time he actually got to, indulge in McDonald's, it was, I don't even remember how many chicken nuggets there were, how many Big Macs there were. It was quite impressive to see. That's for sure. But I've not been to Australia before. But I think we can kind of fit in and figure it out. Italy, honestly, I thought that was going to be one of our biggest problems is finding meals, and especially there, they don't really speak English. And I don't want to say they don't try to, but and my Italian's not so good. But the hotel food was amazing. We kind of got out and really found some little diners and cuisines out. So it was pretty good. You kind of figured out everyone has their own little thing. South Africa, they had a little spot that kind of reminded me of an Applebee's, and we almost went there every single night. But that's part of the whole experience. I mean, that's part of what's cool about getting to do what we get to do.
Yeah, Jason says that he's looking forward to a gas station ham sandwich. So
We had a lot of that was the second time in Argentina is we ham sandwiches at the flying field and Atwood loved them for some reason. He was all about them.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember where, but even in the U.S., we were in a small town at a contest, and me and a buddy of mine were flying together, and we finished after dark because we could take advantage of all the light we had, and it was 8:30 or 9 o'clock or so. And by the time we packed up and went to look for food, it's like everything's closed.
Yeah.
Like, what you gonna do now?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's
convenience store dinner for sure.
That's right. A burrito and a microwave. We can get by.
Yep.
Oh goodness. Well, all right, guys. I promised you I'd keep it under an hour. It's been about 55 minutes. I appreciate you coming along and passing the stories and getting everybody excited. Do you guys have any plans right now of things going on before the trip? I know we got Nats and everybody who can. Unfortunately, I won't be. Will you guys be at Nats, or will that timing be bad?
I know for myself, I'm not planning on going to the Nats. I would like to. There's different lenses to look at it as far as it'd be a great warm up. It also goes back to kind of peaking at the right time. It's fairly close to the event, within about a month, relatively speaking, and we're going at least a week prior, so that puts it around the early to mid August timeframe. So for me, and then the expenses to go to Nats, and it's not the ultimate goal. So I think for me personally, it'll be better just to spend that time practicing with my caller and just getting as sharp as possible at home. As much as I would like to go, I think it's with the goal of the Worlds and represent the U.S. That's my biggest priority right now.
Yeah,
okay.
And kind of to talk about what Pete had mentioned, I wholeheartedly agree. Like you want to be there and you want to support, especially this year being the 100th anniversary. But the end goal, the end game is the World Championships. I tried that in 2009. I went to the Nationals and then went to the Worlds a month later, and I can tell you in my mind, you try and peak at the contest like what Pete said, but the problem is if you peak at the Nats, you now have to try and keep that for that whole time, that whole month after the Nats, right? You don't get like, I know for myself after the Nats last flight landed, it was like the weight was released off my shoulders. It was kind of like, okay, now I can decompress. But that doesn't happen in July for us. We'd have to wait until August. And I think mentally, physically, emotionally, everything that plays into this contest is you try and set yourself up for success. So, I would love to be there. But as far as timing goes, taking time off work, getting ready, expenses, it just makes the most sense to stay here, focus on the end goal, the end game, and go over to Australia as prepared as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Jason chimed in that he plans to leave for Australia on August 1st, so he definitely won't be able to do Nats. But with the timing and everything, I think that does make a lot of sense. Maybe a couple of weeks beforehand, we can get together here again and get everybody excited, and by then maybe know some plans on how people can follow you and what we're actually going to physically do. Because I know there's a lot of people who like to feel like they're involved and getting to be there, even though we can't be there. It'd be nice if NBC News would cover it, and give us some live, the wild world of sports, and it's going to be flight 3 for Andrew Jesky, and he's running first place.
Yeah, a little boring for him.
Yeah, I can't see the airplane.
Oh my god! Yeah, that's right. It's really there.
Somewhere up there. Yeah.
Oh goodness! Or maybe we'll get Evan Turner's been doing a lot of drone coverage.
Yeah,
so,
get him to
he'll come do some drone coverage.
Get him to be the MC for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right, guys. Well, look, I really appreciate y'all being on, and thanks so much, Jason, for trying to be on. We do, and we'll catch Joseph hopefully if we do this again. I think be interesting perspective from him because he's coming from a different direction, and having competed as in the juniors recently, and so we'd love to hear from him as well. So, you guys take care, get ready, and we look forward to following your journey.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Rich.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your help with this interview and getting our exposure out there. It's greatly appreciated.
You bet. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. A very special thanks to my good friend John Papa Gros, who wrote the song Deep in the Mud that is used as the show bumper music. Check him out on his website, www.johnpapagros.com. A link is in the show notes. See you at the next episode.